this plug goes in there, and you'll notice it has a little notch right there, and the plug has a little notch as well right there. So if you approximately line up the notches and push it in, and there I lined it up perfectly to begin with. I was going to say if you line it up just a bit off, you can sort of turn it and it'll pop in. You want to put your hand up here and really make sure that it clicks, like you heard that, right?
Yeah.
So that's that collar clicking, and now it can't be easily pulled out.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Then to take it out, you grab it and pull the collar down. That loosens the plug, and then out it comes. Okay.
Perfect.
It can be left plugged in if you want to. If you want to simply plug it in, chuck the cord over the fence, nothing wrong with that. I suppose you have a small risk of some hooligan coming here and cutting it, but I don't know. You make up your own mind on what you want to do on that. So that's that portion. Let's have a look at the lights under here. There are 4 lights underneath this thing which tell you some stuff. Okay. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to see.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The first one says utility. When that light is on, it just means the grid is on. Okay. Power to your house is on normally. Okay. The one at the bottom is alternate source. That means that the generator's plugged in. Okay. That's a blue light that'll come on when you plug the generator in. The reason I was going down to your panel to begin with is sometimes this thing won't switch over and won't recognize the alternate source while there's still current flowing through the normal path. So I had to stop the current. As soon as I did that, it recognized that there was a generator plugged in and it switched over. You can hardly hear it over the generator, but it does make a loud clicking sound. Okay. Then we have a light called load limits, which that tells you that you're approaching 30 amps of current, which is all this unit can handle. Okay. When the power's normally on and the generator's not plugged in and we're in this situation, it doesn't matter if that light's on, because you have a 100 amp service. So if you use whatever, you're cooking a turkey and you're drying your clothes and the pool pump is going, you might be up to maybe 60 amps. That's perfectly fine, but this light will go on. Okay. When the generator's plugged in and you exceed 30 amps, either the generator breaker will trip, which I'll show you in a second, or this thing will trip. And in either case, what you want to do is come out, shut the generator breaker off, shut off some of the things that you were using inside. Like if you accidentally wanted to dry your clothes, but the air conditioner came on, you forgot to turn it off, for instance, that might happen. So go in there, turn off the things that you think may have tripped it out. It'll be the big things: air conditioner, dryer, oven. Okay. Turn those off, come back out here, turn the things back on. It should reset itself. Okay, there's no button on here you have to press or anything. It just resets itself. Once it knows the current is back down, it'll reset itself. And the last light here is called fault, and that just means there's something wrong with the unit. Okay, when that light turns on, you probably want to give me a call and say there's something wrong with the unit. I may have one to replace. I probably will, to replace that same day, maybe. Hydro cooperates, who knows? And that just means that you shouldn't use the unit. Okay. I've never had one do that yet, so whatever that tells you. So that's basically all you need to know about this. Okay, that's pretty simple stuff. Let's go over to the generator. So this is the generator, and this is a 30 amp generator, 240 volts. Okay, your plug, you can't use any of these, so you can't really make a mistake, because you can't use any of these plugs with this cord. This cord only fits into the one plug you're supposed to use. You can use these other ones in some other application if you want to. You want to run an extension cord or something, you can do that. But the entire thing only gives you 30 amps. Okay, so if you're using this and you're powering your house and then you come out here and plug something else in, you may be, depending on what you're running inside, you may be reaching your 30 amp level. Okay, so what you do is you plug this in. You'll notice this plug has a little notch on it. This is all made so that you can't do it wrong. Okay, and then that plug has a little notch on it. It has 4 prongs, but that hole has the notch. So you line up the notches and you plug it in, and you can turn it a little bit. That means it won't just pop out. Okay, it's not quite as solid as that one, but it's pretty close. So then what you want to do is turn the motor of the generator on. Okay, just because the motor's on doesn't necessarily mean electricity is flowing here. Okay, That's the switch that controls the electricity. That one's off. That's a breaker. It's like the breaker on each circuit in your house. It looks a little bit different, but it does the same function. So when you hook up your cords, you always want to hook the cords up before you start anything, okay? You want to have no electricity in the cords when you're doing all the plugging in and so on, okay? Now you have sort of this situation, your cords are plugged in, your breaker is off. That'll still limit the electricity while you're starting the motor, okay? So the motor, you don't have to pull start this. You can if you feel adventurous, but if you don't want to do that, you simply put the switch up here, and it's like starting your car. When you crank it over, you don't hold it, you just crank it until it starts and then you let it go. That's how you turn it off. Okay. In the case of like a cold weather start, you may need to use the choke, okay? The choke, there's a little tag that tells you here what the choke, basically what it does. When the generator is warm and it's running, because now I just had it running, right, to test it, you can leave it in the run position. When it's cold, you'll probably want to move it all the way over to choke, okay? All it does is it limits the amount of air that goes in. So when an engine's cold, it likes more gas than air. And as it warms up, it's gonna like a more even mixture, okay? So you start it like this. It sounds okay when it runs, and then as it warms up, it starts to sound a bit rough. As that happens, you can either do it gradually, move the lever that way, and you always move it until the generator sounds smooth, okay? And then at one point, it'll be so warm, you can just flick it right over to run, and that's how it'll run, okay? That's, I mean, I say cold start, but really anything room temperature and below is going to require this. If it's a really hot day, it may not require it, okay? Or if it's been just recently running. And then the last thing you need to know over here is this is your on-off for gasoline, okay? Because it comes straight from the tank. And when you're not using it, when it's stored, you want to turn it off. And off is that way. It tells you on the tag right there. Okay, so that just basically stops the gas from flowing down here. It doesn't really matter if you leave it on, but it's a good idea to turn it off in case there is some kind of leak. Obviously, brand new system here, you don't have to worry too much about that. We'll leave it in the off position. Then when you come to use it, you want to turn it on, okay? And that's basically the thing you want to do first, because if you don't do that, no gas is getting to the motor and the motor won't start, okay? Then once you have the thing running, the cords are already plugged in, then you come here and you flick that on, okay? That puts electricity into the cord and into your unit. And that's what you never want to do when you're manipulating the cords, okay? Not a very big chance of something weird happening, but a small chance of getting a little flash, and you don't really want to deal with that, okay? And so that's basically how it works. Do you have any questions?
So how much gas can you fit in this?
I put in about a 20, I think it was a 20-liter jug yesterday. I've already put in stabilizer, so you don't have to, and you always want to use premium gas. Okay. In small things like this that don't run all the time, premium gas always. Okay. The only reason to use regular gas is because it's in your car and it cycles through, so you use it quick. But if you don't use it quick, regular gas has stuff in it that gums up your the works, the carburetor, and so on. So you always want to use high-grade gas, and I've put in a fuel stabilizer, which you can get at Canadian Tire. It's just a little bottle of blue stuff. So if you do run it for a long time and you begin to run out of fuel, you're going to have to go get a couple of cans of gas and put some stabilizer in them as per the instructions. It's pretty easy. And put it in there and you're done.
Okay. Very good. How quick does it go through the gas? Depends on how many amps you're using, or?
It depends a little bit on that, yeah. That's a good question. I would think that you would be able to run this thing for 4 or 5 hours. There's your gas gauge is right there. Okay. So it's a little float. You see that side says full, and that's empty. So it's pretty well as full as it's going to get right now. So you can come out and check that periodically, just when you're running it.
And does it need oil or anything, or it's just?
It does. It has oil.
Okay.
That's the oil filler cap. When you want to add oil, you take this off. It just unscrews. And some might pour out
Yep, okay.
because it's been splashed around quite a lot.
Yeah, okay. Is there a
what-
certain type of oil that it requires?
Yes, you can check the manual for that. It'll tell you exactly what kind of oil.
Okay.
It came with a bottle of oil, which I've already put in there.
Okay.
When you put it in there, actually I should give you, yeah, I'm going to give you another box of stuff that has a funnel in it as well. So you can use that when you add oil. You're not going to really need to do oil for a few hundred hours of operation. Okay, that'll all be in the manual, how long you can run it and then have to change the oil. And it'll tell you how to do it. Basically, if you unscrew this, the oil is sitting all down in the bottom of the motor. It'll flow out, the old stuff. You catch it in a pan or whatever, and then you close that and pour the new stuff in there.
Perfect. I see there's a little battery or something there.
Yes, there is.
How often does that need to be?
Well, I'll tell you about that.
Okay.
There's a it comes with a generator. It's a little adapter, like a plug with a little cord on it. That cord goes in there.
Sorry, I can't see that.
That's okay. It's that
Okay.
little plug right there. You can leave it plugged in and it'll just charge until the battery no longer needs charging, and it'll stop charging it. Like you can't hurt the battery by leaving it plugged in. If you don't want to leave it plugged in, you may have to, before you run it, plug that thing in for a little while, maybe half an hour or so, to get the battery charged enough to run the starter. The battery is there only because you have a push start. Okay. If you had only a pull start, the battery wouldn't even be there. So you're basically.
So if all else fails, if that doesn't work, I could pull start it
You
to
could.
get it going
You
instead
could.
of push. Okay.
It'll be quite
Yeah.
an effort, but
Yeah.
you know, it's good to have a physical challenge once in a while, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, so that's
Okay.
what the battery's for, and this is what charges it.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great.
You can always give me a call if you have any other questions.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.